Hi Subir, thanks for joining this month's Anim Jam. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. If I didn't, please leave it down in the comments letting me know. So I had a look at this animation and there's some things I really love about it. But first let's just give it a playthrough. I think it's really cool that you've got all these rocks here getting punched over as well. You've even animated some of the settle. I think that's really awesome. So first off, I love the anticipation you have here. It feels like there's so much energy being built up. And as he comes around, the snap here with the punch just feels great, I think. And not everyone's gonna like this kind of snappy, poppy action. But I think for stylized animation, it really works well sometimes, and I think here it works quite well because it really sells the impact of the punch. It feels like there's so much force being generated here, and the release feels super powerful with that snap. And I love the pose that you have at the end. I think this is really cool. I mean, maybe this arm feels a little bit unnatural being up like that, but understand why you've done it. You're trying to break up the pose, so this arm and this arm are slightly different, which I think is a cool thing. But you could maybe just bring it down just a little bit, just so it's not so lifted up, so that it doesn't feel quite as unnatural. But I love everything else. It feels like such a powerful pose, especially in this side. And even just the way his neck and his head ends up, it's a really great pose. This is a pretty fun character actually, because his proportions are so unique. You know, he's that huge upper torso and that really short stubby legs would have made it really interesting to animate. So the first thing I wanted to go over is the weight. So the weight is just a little bit off in some areas, and it's more just he's off balance. So just to highlight so this frame 13, I think where his feet are and where his chest is, it's just slightly off. So he feels like he's a little bit off balance here. And the way his leg moves out, it's very difficult to move your leg out like this when the weight is coming down on top of it. So I think the first thing I would probably say to try to do is, rather than coming straight down, so rather than coming across and then straight down, as you have here, it's sort of like this arc at the moment. What you want to try to do is maybe just have a little bit of an up and then a down. So I think here what you can do is, so I'd say starting off this frame is fine, and I think over here you actually want to be maybe not so far across, but also a little bit higher up, and then coming down here. So I think something like this would make it feel a little bit nicer, because it gives him a chance to move his foot out, so the weight isn't sitting on his foot, because you can't really move your feet if your weight is planted on top of it. So I think that's the main thing, is having that slight up and then moving this leg out sooner. So at the moment he hits it at about frame 17, but I think maybe if you move it slightly sooner as he's moving across and up, you're already moving this foot across. So I think frame 9 is good here, and probably want to get there on either frame 15 or frame 14, I think. Let's see how it looks on 15. So 15, and 9. So somewhere halfway would be like this. So slowly easing into that move. And easing out just a tad bit into that final pose. Just gives him a bit of a chance to plant his weight, to shift his leg across before he plants his weight down, essentially. And because he's moving up as well, that'll mean his leg here would straighten out a bit as well, just because he's pushing up and then down. And I think another area where the weight really needs just a little bit of work is this punch here. So what's happening now at the moment is his weight is traveling, his momentum is traveling forward this way, but then it stops here. But there's no counter force, there's not enough counter force to stop his weight there. Because this punch is so powerful, these rocks aren't really generating the counter force that you'd expect in order to stop him. And really that counter force should be coming from this foot. But the foot is landing a little bit later than the body stops. So what's happening is the body stops first and then the foot plants. But what you really want is you want the foot to plant first and then the body to stop. So the foot generates the counter force to stop the cog from moving. So how that would look is, I think if we just have the foot plant a little bit sooner, so at the moment it's planting on 42, 41. So it's planting on 41, but I think really you want to plant it on 38 perhaps. So that the weight makes a bit more sense. So he's not off balance for so long, and his foot's able to take the weight. So I think where you're starting off here is fine. This is great. You just want to come around a little bit quicker. So you'd have something like this. So if I turn off ghosting, let's play it back. You'll see his foot just leads a little bit sooner, allowing him to stop the momentum of his body. So let me just draw in these last few frames. So you can see as he plants, then his body's able to stop. Otherwise, his body just stops for no real reason. And you could have a little bit more twist on this back leg too, so that it twists around a bit more as he twists his body, just so it doesn't feel so locked. So at the moment it's really flat onto us, but you could have a little bit of, you can maybe bring this toe around a bit so you have a little bit more three-dimensionality, and as he comes around you can straighten out to there. So So here it would be something like this. So he's slowly turning his foot around, as you can see, like this, before he punches, and then continue that turning motion away from us. I like the little foot settle here. But just watch out for the weight, because he is a little bit off balance here. So in order to counter that, you could just have this cog move back slightly so that he's in balance more of the time. And then I think ending here is fine. So this is great. So a lot of it is just looking out for where the weight is and how his feet are taking the weight to generate counterforce. And I think that would really make a big difference to how it feels. There's a few other small things like silhouette, but it's a little bit more picky. For me here, I think this could benefit a little from just having his fist higher up, so you could really see that he's reeling up for a punch. And same for down here. If you just lift his hands up just slightly, it could help sell the punch a little bit more. And coming up here, if you lift this fist up a bit more as well, I think you'll have a slightly stronger looking punch. So you can see it's just a little bit nicer of a silhouette. And there's a few other polished things, such as the rotation of his body, his torso. It feels a little bit like this two actions. So he punches and he's traveling straight, and then he rotates. But what I think you want to do is you want to have it feel consistent. So here you already want him to start rotating, and then just interpolate into this. And lastly, the same thing here. It feels like his rotation happens a little bit in sort of like a two-step fashion. So he rotates, he steps forward, and then he finishes rotating. So I think there's possibly a couple of controls here that are a little bit too offset. You want it to feel like maybe a slightly smoother action as he finishes up here. But that's really, it's getting nitpicky, I think. But so yeah, I think those are the main things really. It's just a lot of weight stuff, I think. And of course, you could always polish this to make it even nicer once those things are feeling a little bit better. But I think for the most part, for me, it's the weight. And if you really wanted to polish this out, you could do things with fingers and having the fingers open at times and then closed at other times. So possibly slightly open here and then into a fist here like this, and then ending slightly open again, or ending slightly open here. But those are all subjective things. I think for the most part, once you address the weight, it'll feel a lot better. Cool. Well, thank you for participating. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, feel free to just hit me up in the comments, and hopefully I'll see you participating again. Thanks. Hey, if you've enjoyed this critique, we have a lot more over at our animation Facebook group, AnimJam. Every month we hold an animation competition where the winner will get a free critique from an industry professional. But Anim Jam is more than just a competition. It's a community where you can learn more about animation, share your work, and hopefully be inspired. We have members from all over the world at all different skill levels. There are members from big studios such as Framestore, Sony, Naughty Dog, Luma Pictures, and the list goes on. The group is growing at an exponential rate, and it's super exciting to see all the great work being done. In the future, there's a lot more planned for the group, so join up to stay involved. We'll see you there.